Once again, good morning everyone, and thank you so much for joining in this important webinar on Australian immigration trends and its effect on the immigration consultancy sector. So we have been doing this for months now. Like I'm pretty much sure you guys must have attended our previous webinars as well. We try to choose a topic which is like, let's say, most pressing issue in the industry or based on the feedbacks which we receive from our clients who has previously joined our webinar. So currently, as we all know, we are in the middle of the significant transition area for Australian immigration policies. So at this time, when there are drastic changes happening in Australian immigration, and these changes are actually so powerful that people are going to an extent to say that it is it seems like Australia is closing its door for immigrants. Now, is that true, or is there any misconception around the policy changes? Well, we will get to know today. We will find out that if the thing is that we only need a bit of clarification around the policy changes, or is this the case that Australia is closing its door for immigrants? So, not making you wait furthermore, I will directly jump into the discussion. But before that, I would like to start the webinar with a quote. I'm pretty much sure you guys must have heard this quote from Bill Gates. So, as he has said, that as we look ahead into next century, the leaders are those who empower others. So today our goal is to equip you with the knowledge which is required to, let's say, guide your students and immigrants throughout the educational and the let's say migration journey, right? So today during this webinar, what you'll be getting is the expert insight on the immigration trends and policy changes in Australia. You will also explore and understand the challenges and opportunities which is faced by immigration agents like you. We will explore the economic effect of the recent immigrants. And afterwards, we will also look into the future aspect of this particular changes which are happening on this evolving landscape. So let's start our journey. Sit back, relax, and I encourage you to get your question asked in the chat. We can even ask the question during the Q&A session, which we are going to have later on at the end of the webinar. And our team will be answering you in the chat, or otherwise we will be keeping your question for Q&A session, right? So I think someone is also joining. Just a second. Just admit it. So yeah, we can start the webinar, and we can get our answers and the queries solved from the experts. Let me do one thing here. If you guys will allow me, let me introduce myself and the guest as well to you before we start the actual webinar. So my name is Janvi. I'm product expert at KONZE. I will be guiding you through this discussion, which is on the topic which is very timely and crucial as well, as we look into the current landscape of Australian immigration. So it will be deciding the future of international students. So that is the case, and let me introduce you to our guest as well. So we have today with us, first up, let's say, if I want to introduce you to Dr. Samita Pandya from IEMS. She has been guiding thousands of students throughout their journey for education or working or migration. She has years of experience in this section. So Dr. Samita Pandya, welcome. And I would like you to introduce yourself once again to our audience, if you can just.
Thank you, Janvi. I appreciate. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Samita Pandya. I have done my PhD in psychology. I've been counseling students for 20 years, and I'm a certified AIRC counselor. I've certified from British Council UK, and I'm working under Mara company, registered company. And it's been 6 to 7 years that I'm working in the immigration field, and I hope to give my best today.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Samita, for such a wonderful introduction. Yeah, it is. I'm hoping we are going to get good takeaways from this webinar as per your knowledge. Now, let me introduce you to our second guest. Please join me extending warm welcome to Mr. Ritesh Acharya, who is from Education Asia. He has extensive expertise in career counseling, or if we say the regulatory compliances and the education immigration services. So, Mr. Ritesh Pandya, I would like to ask you if you can do the honor to introduce yourself once again to our audience.
Thank you, Janvi. Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah.
I'm Ritesh Acharya. Currently, I'm the country manager at Education Asia Nepal. And I've been in this international student placement business since a long time. It's back in 2008 when the UK changed its immigration system and changed it to Tier 4. So that was when I started counseling. And from then, it's been more than 15 years of journey. So it's been a wonderful ride, and I feel wonderful helping other students. And for now, I'm more on the operations side rather than direct counseling. But whatever with knowledge I have, I try to dispatch to my fellows and my colleagues.
That's great. That's great, sir. So, without further delay, let's start with the actual webinar. So, guys, we all know that there has been many changes happening in Australian immigration currently, and we also know that Australia has long been a preferred destination country for students all around the world. Like it can be due to its high quality education, which is recognized worldwide. It can be due to its welcoming environment or the mixed culture, and also not to forget the post-study work visa opportunities which they provide. So there has been the case that students are having the Australia as prior, like most prior country for their career when it comes to student visa, yeah, or otherwise it is immigration visa. But recently, as we all know, there has been some drastic changes. So it has been like a roller coaster ride for everyone who is involved in this industry, and it is happening. So it really necessitates a deeper understanding on this particular issue. So, if we would like to know from you, Ritesh, how do you think you are going to explain or describe the current immigration trends in Australia?
Mhm. So as a overall, like Australia, they are kind of a planned, very good planned kind of system and all. So as of now, what we can say is that especially as a whole, we don't see the drastic change in number of visa applications to Australia when we look at the big overall picture. But when we look into the specific regions, we found that there have been some drastic changes, especially in the South Asia, because South Asia is one of the main
Mhm.
sources for Australian international education, and because Nepal, India, and even Pakistan, Bangladesh. So Australia is very popular, maybe because our relatives are already there settled. That can be one of the reasons.
Mhm.
So, but now the main issue that has been brought about is because many students, what they did was they went to the university, our big university that charges around $40,000 per year, and they used to show their income and all documents regarding that. But later on, they used to go there and change to a private college that charges around 30% of their fees. So what happened
Mhm.
was that the Australian immigration was looking at all this happening, unfolding since many years. It's not just a drastic step that they have taken. So it has been piling up for quite long, and they found out that when we really show the documents, we kind of exaggerate our income. During our
Mhm.
visa application, we show that we can afford that university, but when we go and change, then they are questioning. So that's why they have given this risk rating, immigration risk rating, and level 3 means the highest risk. So Nepal and India are
Mhm.
currently at the highest risk rating. So that's why it has been impacted a lot. So we can see that for example, for India, let's say there were 66,000 visa applications lodged in the previous year, but this
Yes.
year it has gone down to 55,000. So that doesn't seem
Mhm.
like much of a decrease. But when we look at the visa grant rates, we see that visa grant rate has been decreased from 50,000 to 32,000. That's for
Mhm.
those who are lodging their applications from outside Australia, not onshore applications. So we can see that
Mm-hmm.
even though there has been a slight increase in the number, decrease in the number of applications, the number of grants has been decreased a lot, because it's because the Australian government, the immigration, it has been scrutinizing more carefully whatever documents that
Oh, yes.
we submit to them. So that's what I feel, that it's not a,
Mm-hmm.
as a whole, their immigration system has not changed as a whole, but they have been targeting some countries who have been known to have a bad track record in the past. That's how I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, that's correct actually. I have also heard about this. Like since pandemic, after that there was a rise in the applications which government was getting, Australian government. So after
Oh,
that, many of those like applications, there was cases of fraud, and students were just going there just for the work purpose. But they were showing that it is like we are regularly attending the university, but they were not doing so. So I think this is the case, and this is the reason why they implemented this scrutiny, right? So this might be the case why they are right now, currently, they are streamlining the whole process of the
yes, yes,
visa.
yeah, definitely. There, it's on part. It's a fault of the Australian government as well, because just after the
Okay.
COVID, they had extreme shortage, especially in hospitality workers and childcare,
Yes,
elderly care,
that's correct.
those sectors. That's why they kind of they were kind of distributing visas left and right. So every applicant,
Okay.
it was like 80-90% visa granted was there, and on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
they were giving unlimited work rights to students, just to
Mm-hmm.
address their shortage, internal domestic shortage in the Australian workforce. So that's why
Yes.
they kind of granted visas a lot more than needed, we could say,
Mm-hmm.
when you
Yes.
look at the
Yes.
decisions now. And then to control that flow, now they have brought about these
They are.
stringent measures. Yeah.
Yeah, they are now streamlining the process, and they are, I think, focusing more on the skilled migration instead of doing just like the normal migration. They are also, I think, focusing on the high demand sectors which are there. Like instead of focusing on the healthcare, they are focusing on tech as well. So they are like more on this section of bringing these skilled persons to their country. Right. So that makes sense. So actually, we can go further, even go further and look into the changes, like what are the significant changes we have seen in the recent year. So the most significant changes we have seen for international student is one, as Ritesh mentioned, it is the increase in the visa fees. Like there has been a good increase in visa fees in comparison with the previously what fees we had. Secondly, the government is asking for more proofs regarding the financial documents, because as Ritesh mentioned, that many people were trying to apply for the university where the fees were not like affordable, but still afterwards, after getting the visa application approved, they were trying to move to other university with 30% something fees of that particular university. So that's why the change has been brought, or this has been implemented. Now second thing is there has been strict student visa rules. So visa rules, so if we can say, like earlier there was the case that the migrants or the temporary visa holders or visitor visa holders who were visiting the country, they were actually trying to extend their visa, saying that we have loved the country, we love the education, we will try to apply for student visa now, and we will be applying for study visa. So in that case, there were many instances where they had applied for study visa afterwards, after applying for visitor visa, when earlier, when they were applying for visitor visa, they did not show any of the interest to apply for this country for study visa. But now there might be one reason though, like there is one GT filter, like GT exam, which they need to clear in order to get the study visa done. But in case if you have already entered Australia, then it will not be required. So to skip that part, they might be entering as a visitor visa holder, and then they might be extending their visitor visa a student visa. So this might be an issue as well. Now afterwards, there has been one impact on migration housing market. So I would like to like mention one thing here. If you guys know, in Canada also we had we had a similar what we say similar option which was there. Earlier they were getting migrants from all over around the world, but afterwards they felt that migration was too much, or they had so many migrants in their country, and it was affecting their market, it was affecting their housing market as well. The inflation rates were high. So that was the case when they realized they needed to restrict that option to get more migrants. So this might be the same issue for Australia as well, that if we have they might think that if we have more migrants coming, then it might impact our housing market, or it might impact our inflation and job opportunities as well. So this might be the case why they have implemented that. After that,
Yeah.
if we look into the next option, yeah, Ritesh, you were saying something
Mhm.
on this. Would you
Yeah,
like to
yeah, yeah,
explain it?
yeah. Yeah. Actually, they were trying to tighten it from quite a long time. Like
Yeah,
initially, it
that's
was
correct.
like there was like a living cost requirement. So students needed to show that they had got $21,041 per year to
Mhm,
survive in Australia, but they increased
mhm.
it to 24,505. Uh, just because you mentioned the housing crisis and all, so they were
Yes,
so maybe they were all as sourcing kind of a cheap student accommodation, so that's why we should increase the living costs. And again it didn't work, and within 6 months they again increased it to 29, more than
yes,
29,710.
that's
So
correct. That's
yeah,
correct.
from
Mhm.
21 to 28,000 within a span of just a few
Yes, sir.
months. Yeah, that was quite an unprecedented move. And after that, the visa hike. Yeah, so from seven hundred
Yes,
dollars
that's
to
correct.
$1,600. Yeah, it was obviously it is seeing it seems that they want to limit those low income people. So whoever has a
Ye-
good income, they are welcome to Australia, but you need to show this much good finances, this much savings, and all.
Yes,
So that's the message that they have been giving. And
yes, exactly.
apart from that, as Janvi said, because they're targeting skill manpower and all, we can see that from our internal speculation that we do our assessment, we feel that for courses like Bachelor of Business or those kind of generic courses, the visa grants, the scrutiny has been more tougher than in other like Bachelor of Cyber Security or Business Analytics, those kind of fields. So they are also
Yeah,
assessing the
that's correct.
applications on the basis of what the Australia needs. So they are not they can't really deny everyone, but they are trying to
Yeah.
limit those generic students over there. And especially
Mm-hmm.
and another thing is like they have decreased the post-study work visa. So that was one of the main attractions of Australia. And they have increased it used to be 50 years, you need to be less than 50 years in order to get a PSW,
Yes.
but now they
Mm-hmm.
have reduced that to 35 years.
Right.
Thirty-five
So now,
years.
yeah, so now they are trying to because the number of permanent residencies gained, that's kind of ultimate end goal for Nepalese or Indian students, we could say. And so for that permanent residency, most of them, those are skilled manpower. They more than 70% are currently in Australia. If we're looking at the last year's data, we can see that those who were granted permanent residency, out of that, more than 70% were already in Australia there. So whenever
Yeah.
they were in Australia, means they were either studying 1, 2, 3, or 4 degrees as well until they could get a permanent residency. And another thing was they used to change to another course, even to a course below. They might have completed masters, but now they want to go for a diploma degree. So that used to happen. So now they have brought these policy changes that they cannot reapply when they are on a post-study work visa in Australia. So now if they want to reapply for a student visa, they need to come back to their home country and apply. That means that practically it's not feasible when they have been like living there, studying there, and working for maybe 2 or 3 years. They have landed a
Yes.
job, they have got an apartment, rented an apartment. So they should resign
Mhm.
from their job, they should leave their apartment, take everything and go back to the country and again apply for a student visa and then again
Student
come back.
visa, that's
So
correct.
so that's not feasible. They
Mhm.
are trying to say, they
Yeah,
are not
that's
saying
not
straight up no, but they are trying to limit that as well. So
yeah,
that's
that they are
Mhm.
trying to limit that.
So they are
That's
just
correct,
focusing on
Ritesh.
skilled manpower. Yeah, as you said. So
Yeah.
skilled manpower is there. So as I said earlier, the visa numbers, applications, and grants have gone down drastically for our South Asian nations. But for those who have got a like construction and nursing, those kind of fields, we are seeing that visas are granted more it's more easier process, and the grantees are
Yes,
also
it
higher.
is
That's
easier
what I
process
felt.
actually.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, that's correct, Ritesh. I think Dr. Samita has again joined us. Dr. Samita, are you able to hear us?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. There was some internet glitch, so I had
No,
to set
no
up something.
worries,
Yeah.
no worries, ma'am.
Yeah.
So we were actually discussing this, the significant changes. So would you like to please give your views on this? Like, what do you think are significant changes for Australian immigration recently?
So yeah, yeah, there are a lot of changes and they've become a little more stringent from before. Post COVID, they started picking up a little bit, but then again, they could see there are a lot of fraudulent documents, visa hopping, which was going on, people going on visit visa and then converting it to student. Like Mr. Ritesh said, students joining a university and then they shift to vocational colleges, which are lesser, cheaper in, I mean, like the fee structure and everything, and then
Mm-hmm.
they could see this lot of things happening, and that's the reason
Yes.
why they wanted to put it on hold, put a stall. So that's the reason why Australian immigration has made it a little more stringent, and they want to filter the students now, be it academics, and they want
Mm-hmm.
to work on the immigration. They are looking for a longer process. They want skilled immigration. They want skilled migrants. They want PR pathways to be clear. So that's the reason why they've
Mm-hmm.
become a little stringent in that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
there are a
correct.
lot of policy changes happened. The English requirement is an increase. The visa fees is increased, and the living expenses have increased drastically within a year. Twice they have increased the living expenses as well, because they want a good number of people, like good filtered candidates, to join Australia, so that they can benefit the economy and the standard of living in Australia as well. So yeah.
Yeah. That's really insightful, Dr. Samita. Thank you for giving us such good information. Now, let's discuss about this as well. Like, as we can understand, there has been many changes which might affect the immigration business as well. So there are some challenges and opportunities we can assume from these changes, because like there are two aspects if I talk about this. One can be that because of this complexity or the high visa fees or higher scrutiny, some might be discouraged. Some students or some immigrant might be discouraged to apply. So there might be the hurdle as well for the immigration agents to get more applications. But there is one opportunity as well, as I can see that because of these changes or recent like policy changes which are happening, the student or the migrants will require more professional advice on the visas or the policies as well. So they will require the counseling from professionals. So it will also get an increase in the visa consultancy. So there might be an opportunity as well. We will definitely get these insights regarding this from our expert. But before that, now, I would like to share some insights with you. We have this data collected from government website. So this is actually the details about the application which were logged for this higher education in financial year 2023-24. So if we look at this data, what it is showing is, let's say around the pandemic time, if we focus on 2020, 20 and 21, during that time, the application lodged rate was very low. But after that, we can see a good rise in the applications. How many applications was lodged for that time? Around 2023, 24, it was really high. After that, if we focus more on this, we can see a particular rise in seasonal time. Let's say if we focus on October to February time, it is showing a good rise in the applications which were done during that time. So it shows that the application number of application have been rose from the current, let's say the 2021-20 scenario, and currently we have more applications coming. Although this is the data till December, we will be also getting the different data that how many applications were actually granted. So now these are the key observation from the previous graph. As I have mentioned that during the COVID time, it was like lowest application rate, but after that we have seen the growth, and there has been seasonal like growth as well. Now this is the graph which we have received for the application granted actually. So if we can see in this, the same like as we have noticed on the previous graph, the application rate was low. So the application granted rate is also low for 2020-21. But after that, if we compare it with 2023 around data, then it is really a good growth in application granted for Australia. So it is really a positive change. Afterwards, if we focus seasonally, when it is like around December's time, it is showing a real like step there in the graph. So it is the time when I think it is the enrollment happening or the intake time. So it is showing a good increase in that. Right. So these are the key observations we can find from the graph. I would like to ask you, Ritesh, on this. Like, how do you think that recent immigration trends are going to affect the edu immigration consultancy? What do you think on this?
Yeah. So regarding this graph about the number of applications granted, we can see that from 2020 to 23 December, that's 2022 December, it's got almost 100,000 grants. But
Mm-hmm.
but in that same period for 2023-24, we can see it's around less than 40,000. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like December should has the highest number of grants every year because February. So the major intake in Australia is February. February and July are
Mm-hmm.
the two major intakes, but there are certain programs like physiotherapy and many courses that only start in February itself. So February it's the major intake. So the number of, as you said, this data that you have shared must be as a overall from all the countries around the world. So as I had mentioned earlier, if we just extract this data for Nepal and India or South Asia, our main concern over here, so I think that it would
Yeah.
show a different picture here also, because
Yeah.
due
Yes,
to
yes, that might be the case.
yeah, the number of applications have obviously gone down, as someone
Mm-hmm.
from in was saying in the comment. We are also concerned a bit because there are because Australia main market, like the main destination for Nepalese students used to be Australia, but now they feel that 1,600 visa fees and other kind of documentation fees and all, and after spending maybe 2 or 3 lakh Nepali rupees, that's non-refundable. Then also there's not much likelihood that they will be granted a visa. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
many people are there, students are, even parents are aware of these issues because it has all been covered in the media these days. So the
Mm-hmm.
the universities Australia is there. So educational bodies in Australia and we education agents, of course, we are kind of we are against the recent policies that have been brought about by the Department of Home Affairs. So the election is also coming next year. So maybe
Yeah, that's correct.
keeping that in mind, the Prime Minister, so Albanese government, they have like kind of sacked the Home Affairs Minister Claire O'Neill, who brought about all these antagonistic policies. It may be in a
Mm-hmm.
bid to assuage the education providers and agents and all. So we now have to see what the new ministers for Department for Home Affairs and Immigration. So what policies he would bring, what kind of message he would give to the students, that would also play a major factor, and it will still unfold in 3 or 4 months from now, I believe.
Yes, yes, that should be a case, Mr. Ritesh. That should be a case.
Mm.
So you have mentioned that what are going to be the hurdles for the immigration agents like you. But do you think there are any opportunities for the immigration agents as well? Like, what are your views on this?
Yes, opportunities not only for the immigrant agents only, but also for the students. Now that Australia is
Mm-hmm.
kind of filtering that we are only seeking high value students and those
Yep.
who
Yeah.
will have an impact on the skill market of Australia later on. So as I said
Mm-hmm.
earlier, if you go for a generic courses like Masters of International Business, then
Mm-hmm.
it is a low. You have got very little chances of gaining a permanent residency there because it's not
Mm-hmm.
in a skill shortage area. So those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
because in the past people used to go to Australia, study for 2 years, have a post study work for 3 years, and again do another course and maybe bring their spouse on, and then ask
Yeah.
their
Mm-hmm.
spouse to study something and go on a PSW again. So
Yeah.
that's what the Australian government labeled as permanent temporaries. That's what they
Yeah,
said. So for now,
temporary.
we as a counselors, we can also say that no, you cannot indefinitely then you stay in Australia. You should go for a particular course that is in shortage if you want to settle there permanently. So in the long run, it's better for the students as well, and for us also. We are, for example, sending our students to a university, and the students go there. We don't really know their intents, and we find out from the university that they have switched the
Okay.
providers, and now the
Okay,
universities are
that's okay.
now the universities are questioning us, we education agents. So where did your
Yeah.
students go?
Mm-hmm.
And we are saying we didn't know, we send it to your university, why couldn't you keep them? That's why what we say, because
That's
once they enter
but it's the case.
Australia, we have kind of no control over them. So this kind of things could be avoided.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been some rumors
Yes.
that like in other countries like the UK, so they have tied the visa to the education provider,
Yes.
the university itself. So if that measure is introduced, I think it would be the best for everyone involved in this Australian education and immigration landscape.
That is understandable, Ritesh. I think Dr. Samita had anything to say on this. I think she was
Yeah.
mentioning something. Yeah, please
Yeah,
go
so
ahead.
I feel immigration will improve a lot, and you can see a positive outcome on the immigration side. Education side,
Hmm.
still, it's going to take some time because we as a counselors also have to have updated, information about the
Hmm.
policies. It's very important being an agent or a consultancy or a counselor at a consultancy. We need to have up to date information, and we start preparing students for, before 6 months. We tell them to have an app 6 months time before applying for any university, so that we
Hmm.
can filter them, we can counsel them, they can keep the students. And I have a couple of my students who are still in touch with me. We guide them towards the PR pathway as well. So as an education agent, it's a little challenging with these policies to have a hold on students or universities, or control over the profits, or you maybe a longer run. But definitely we as an agent have stringent policies as well, because if we submit wrong documents or fraudulent documents, and if they find out, so we as an agents also will lose our agreements. So even it's
Yeah.
a very challenging at this time, like, when we are filtering students, we are making sure we are seeing each and every financial documents even before submitting to the university. Visa is again
Hmm.
a different, but even universities have become very stringent. So
Yes.
yeah, it is a challenging definitely, but over a few months we can come out of it.
Yeah, so it is basically a transition period, if I can say
Yes,
so, right? It
yes,
is,
yes, yes.
yeah.
It is a transition period, and it's very profitable
Mhm.
for immigration actually, because now
Yes,
we can
that's
see the
correct.
immigration statuses have been cleared faster
Yeah.
than what we used to see before. Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's correct, Dr. Samita. Now that we are talking about the students and the immigrants, I would like to know your views on this, Dr. Samita. How do you think like it is going to be affecting students' choices when they are selecting the destination for their study?
So, you see, if I see still Australia being the top priority, like out of 35 in a
Mhm.
month, we have 20 students at least majorly planning to go to Australia, though being so stringent policies because of the
Mhm.
culture, the location, the diverse culture which
Yes.
Australia has, and also the PSW and the PR pathway is very easy compared to Canada and UK. But definitely there is,
Mhm.
after these policy changes, we can see a slight change, like 23% of students want to have a second option parallelly, like Australia being
Yes.
first, but then parallelly they either want to go to Canada or UK. But if you see, Canada has banned international students, especially from India. They have cut down PSW and the post study
Mhm.
work, and then UK is also cut down the
Mhm.
post study work. So Australia is still there, like we still have 2 years of PSW, so students wants to still go because the PR pathway is very easy for students in Australia. So
Yes.
there's still a standard ratio going, like 63%, if you see, according to a survey, that students still have
Mhm.
Australia as a destination. So yeah.
Yeah, yes, that is the case. So if I put it like that, like let's say if students are only going for study purpose, then they might be thinking that it might be difficult for them. to go for Australia only, or they should have parallel options as well. But if they are focusing more on the like PR pathway part, then really it will be helpful for them, because in that case it will be beneficial for them and Australian government as well, because they will be getting the skilled migration in their country.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay, that's nice. And I think for Australia, like if we talk about this, like if some students are already, they have applied for Australian visa, and let's say if they have received, the application has been granted for them, and they have studied in Australia. In the case if there is any problem afterwards, then definitely they can even apply for other countries after studying in Australia, because Australian education will be recognized in different countries as well, be it New Zealand or Germany, right? So, like, what do you think about this? Is it possible for them to apply for different countries after studying there for PR? Dr. Samita, do you have any
Yeah,
views on
definitely.
this?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
definitely they can apply because any
Mm-hmm.
country education matters a lot. Like the PR points in
Mm-hmm.
Australia has been counted on the Australian, education university and their education background. So definitely anywhere, if for example, if a candidate has completed his masters or bachelor's in Australia and has a good work
Mm-hmm.
experience and wants to apply for Canada, definitely those points
Mm-hmm.
have been valued. The points have been
Yes.
considered, so definitely you can
Mm.
find it's an advantage for them, but mostly 99% students who've completed their masters and bachelors will try to get PR, that is after
In
PSW, want to
Australia.
continue with PR in Australia because Australia has been
Yeah.
seen and found that, it's the easy PR pathway. And that's the reason why
Mm-hmm.
students who want to go, like if you see USA, for an example, like, after studying and after their OPT, after getting the H1, still green card is like 12, 15 years waiting. It's a backlog going on, and citizenship is nowhere to be
Yes.
seen. So definitely Australia is not that kind. You can definitely see the pathway opens more positively for the students who have completed
Yes.
their education there. So students will definitely
Yes.
not think about shifting from Australia once settled in Australia, and but
Mm-hmm.
still yes, they can parallelly also opt for other countries.
Yeah, definitely. They can opt for other
Yeah.
countries as well if that is the case. And I have heard that even if they are working, let's say if they are working on temporary visa holders or anything like that, then there are many like companies which have their branches in different countries, different like let's say New Zealand, Germany, but they have head office in Australia. So in case if any work experience they are having in any country, it will be let's say it will be recognized in other countries as well, so it will not be like creating any that much difficulties for anyone who has gained experience in Australia. It will be still worth it for other countries as well, right? So that is the
Yeah.
case.
Yeah, definitely. It will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have one fun fact here. I think 63% of international student, like as per the data, they still believe the Australia is offering the best offer, like best opportunities for their career. So that is the data which we have received. I think Ritesh was saying something. Please go ahead, Ritesh.
Yeah, just as you said, so for those who are unable to get permanent residencies, so
Mm-hmm.
they go and study for 2 years. Let's say for master's level student, they study for 2 years, and depending on their location, they get 2, 3, or 4 years of post-study work visa. So if they get a
Mm-hmm.
valuable work experience from a good company there, then
Mm-hmm.
if they do not get a PR, then they do have the option of doing like kind of intra-company transfer to another country as well, as you mentioned
Yeah,
before.
that's correct.
So but as Dr. Sapta said, so that would be the it's just only one person, that's be the last resort, because we
Mm-hmm.
couldn't settle in Australia, but now we can at least work for a good company in another first world country. So that's kind of a
Mm-hmm.
fallback option for those students, I believe.
Okay, okay, that is the case. Now moving further, Ritesh, I would like to ask you, like, how do you think this recent immigrants, which is happening, is going to affect the economy for Australia? What are your views on this?
Mm, yeah, it will definitely have uh, speaking from the perspective of Australian economy, we can see that
Mm-hmm.
this will kind of have a negative effect 1 or 2 years down the line, because
Mm-hmm.
because the international students enrollment has gone drastically down. So
Okay.
they have brought these all tough measures to control the students, but there are also some kind of loopholes over there. Like they have got this assessment label with risk rating. So we can now see that
Mhm.
the universities with the lowest risk rating, that's level one, so they are
Mhm.
they are given more leeway when granting visas. So visas come
Mhm.
quicker. Like when we apply to level two university, it is taking 2 months to get a visa. But for level one university, it takes 4 to 5 days to get a visa itself. And the
Mhm.
other thing is the most of these level one universities are the expensive and reputed universities. All the group of eight universities, those have more than 50,000 fees per year on average. So that's quite expensive for
Yes, it is.
most of we Nepalese and Indian students. But the other
Mhm.
universities, and now the regional universities, those in the remote areas, they mainly depend on international students for funding even their domestic student expenses. But now those numbers have gone down. So the
Mhm.
universities like Charles Sturt universities, they said that their enrollment has gone down by more than 50% in the last February intake. So that
Mhm.
obviously poses a challenge. Even for those regional areas, there will be the part-time workers for the aged care homes and hospitality sectors. So those will take a hit. And the greatest export, it's like the largest export of Australia is international student with more than $43 billion valuation every year. So it is taking a hit,
Mhm.
and there has been a negative message regarding Australia, because in the poll also many said that they would cautiously advise
Yes.
regarding choosing Australia. So everyone is thinking that
Mhm.
it's quite an expensive path. If we happen to get through, then it can be good for future PR options as well. Because
Mhm.
even though they have made this student visas tighter for immigration, they welcomed more than 190,000 permanent residents last year, and for the coming year they have made the target of 189,000. So that's not much of a decrease. So for permanent
Mhm.
residency, the message is clear: if you can afford it, come here, and if you got skilled manpower, then you might have option to settle here. So I think that's the clear
Mhm.
message Australian government is sending us.
Yes, that is the message they are saying. Also, Ritesh, I would like to know one more thing here. How much do you think it affects the Australian economy? Like, do you think that it is going to be a positive change? Like, let's say if we focus on recent immigrants, let's say if
Mhm.
they are having the skilled migration, immigration coming, so will it be positive for Australian economy? Will it be like, or otherwise will it be negative for them? Because I have seen that recently, like when we were talking about Canada, so in that case, what had happened is due to the more number of migrants, their economy was facing issue. Like inflation rate was high for that particular country. They were getting the higher rates for housing market as well, and they were thinking that job opportunities are also like less in comparison of earlier scenario. So like as I have seen in the news, like the immigration which is happening for Australia, it is going to have positive change for Australia, or the recent migrants which have been migrated to Australia, do they like contribute positively in the economy, or do they like contribute in negative manner? Is it positive for Australia or not? What do you think on this?
Yeah, the ruling party, they think that okay, there was a housing shortage, and at once they
Mhm.
blamed all the international students. But many independent research have found that international students have less than 2 or 3%, around that much impact on the
Okay.
housing market itself. So that was kind of like
Mm-hmm.
a reactionary move from the government. So they said that okay, international
Mm-hmm.
students are taking up our homes. Now we have brought measures to correct them. So, but this cycle is
Mm-hmm.
always continuing because there's a housing shortage. There's kind of a structural issue with the Australian economy itself. It was not really brought about by these international students. And on top of that,
Mm-hmm.
the main international students that take up housing were the Chinese students. So those
Mm-hmm.
predominantly go to those group of eight universities. So they take up
Mm-hmm.
good big apartments in the city center, and those high level students more contribute to the housing shortage. That was what was found. So,
Understood,
so
understood.
yeah, so now that they have kind of limited the applications and send a negative message, it will definitely have a detrimental impact on the Australian economy, because $43 billion, that's a huge amount, and when that takes a hit, it will have a cyclical effect on the economy as well. It won't be seen this year itself, but down a year or two, then they'll again face shortages in the hospitality sectors and the health sectors,
Mhm.
and they'll again be loosening their visa requirements. That's what I feel. That's It's been happening
Uh,
since 2010 itself.
so that is continuous cycle. And Dr. Samita, what do you think? Like as per the changes we have seen till now, what are your views on the future aspect of this? Do you think there is going to be same changes happening again and again in future, or what is the aspect you see in this
Um, uh,
regarding the
uh,
future?
as per the changes which has happened now, it's been very stringent and very strict. I don't think so. They're going to tighten it more from here, because they had done the bit how they have to filter the crowd and how they have to. I think by next year, we as an agents we are expecting that they will
Ankita,
allow
can
students and
you give me just a second?
PR to be more little lenient.
Body?
Sorry that
Yeah.
I'm disturbing.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, so you'll find a positive impact. In fact, according to my experience,
हेलो
um,
हाँ
going to the
ये मैंने 2:18 बजे मैंने सिंह दरबार जाना है
I think
तेरे तेरे
someone
क्या
has by mistake unmuted their mic. I
yeah
will just mute that. Yeah, please go ahead, Dr. Samita.
yeah as per the economy, definitely you'll find a drastic change in economy now. But in near future, they have planned it such a way that they're going to see a change again. We will be seeing some leniency in near future. Mostly, we are expecting from July we can see some good policy changes towards us, because they will
Yes.
filter whatever they could for this year. That's the reason why that, like, from past COVID, like since 2 years, they are very strict, stringent. I could see like after May 2022, they have been consistently changes happening in the living expenses and everything. But after 2025, we are expecting some leniency from them. So yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, that can be expected. So the
Yes.
positive changes expected, as I can
Yes.
see. So because they
Yes.
have already tightened the rules, like
Yes.
enough, right? Yeah. So that is going to be a positive change for visa consultancies as well, as I can see. Now, like as we have discussed this, like do you think that the agents who are like best for when they are working for Australia only, is these changes are affecting them? Like what are the things they should prepare for this? Like yeah, what should be their preparation? I can see you're smiling on this. So Dr. Samita, how would you think it is going to be?
Yeah, so ours is also majorly an Australian company, and but parallelly we have
Okay.
other countries as well where we do visas for US, Canada, UK, and New Zealand.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely who are based only on Australia, the agents, the consultancies who just work only as a destination as Australia, they are going to have a
Mhm.
tough time near future. Maybe I
Mhm.
have seen in I mean, like in our region, many have even closed. The consultancies have been closed
Mhm.
because due to so stringent rules, the financial documents, the source of incomes, and they, after working 6 months, if the COE doesn't come from the university or if the visa is rejected, they end up nowhere.
Mhm.
So definitely based
Mhm.
on only Australia destination, the agents will be having a tough time. But as we
Yes.
have a parallelly, like if you see New Zealand is picked up all well after Australia being little stringent,
Yes,
and
yes, that yeah,
Canada,
that is
UK
the
has
case.
picked up. US is an all-time favorite for throughout, so universally. So
Yes.
yeah, so the parallelly, if the agents only dependent on Australia, it's going to be really really tough for them. They have to have
Mm-hmm.
an updated information. They have to filter, like even before submitting, they have to
Mm-hmm.
filter. So it's a long way process for even counselors and the process consultants and the agents. So
Mm-hmm.
if they have other countries parallelly, it's going to be better for them. But yeah, only based on Australia, it's little difficult for a year and two. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes, yes, that is actually. Yeah,
yeah,
Ritesh, go
that,
ahead.
yeah. To answer the other aspect of your question, like for those agencies which are based physically in Australia, so
Mm-hmm.
they are having a much tougher time,
Yeah.
because the government,
Yes.
as I said earlier, students go to a good university and they kind of change to a college. So agents also had
Mm-hmm.
to had a part in that, because the main income of our agencies is the referral incentive that is
Yes.
provided by the universities and colleges. So when they used to refer a university a student to another university, they used to get some kind of incentives. But now the government is kind of putting a ban
Yep.
on commission on onshore transfer. That means if you
Yes.
are
Yeah,
going to a
that's right.
university and then you are changing to another, then the agents won't get commission. Then
Commission.
and,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
another
that's right.
another aspect is those on a visit visa, they cannot apply.
Yes.
So those on
Okay.
visit visa would definitely take help of onshore education agents. So I feel that those education agents, just education agents exclusively based in Australia, they'll have a tough time. But those who do the education and immigration side by side, so they will see a downtown on their education business, but upturn on their immigration business. So
Immigration.
for those it's kind of a balance thing.
Totally, I get it with
So,
Mr. Ritesh. I want to
yeah.
add on, like we have a head office in Melbourne, and definitely we can see a transition, like a different change altogether. We find it immigration side more positive now than the student side, because they've put a ban. Visa hopping is stopped. Even TR visas cannot shift to student visa. I mean, like, yeah, so definitely. So we have like a parallel education and immigration, which works, but based only on education, then they will be having a tough time. Yeah.
Understood. Although we can say that this is a transition period, definitely there has to be a positive change later on. If like based on our discussion which we just had, if I want to like point out some key takeaways from this, then we can say that it is going to be a tough time for migration agents as well, and same goes for the students. But yes, if it is like they are genuine student, they are like applying genuinely for the university and have proper documentation, then yes, definitely their visas will be granted. And secondly, if we are more focusing on the PR, then Australia is going to be a good destination for us. Second thing I would like to mention from the conversation as a key takeaway is that for let's say for the visa consultancies, they should focus more on the what are the policy changes are happening. And as I mentioned earlier, that because students and migrants will be requiring more professional advice and counseling from their end, then it is also going to increase the demand for visa counselors and also for the consultancy business. So yes, there is going to be that change as well. And now if we talk about overall the policy changes which has happened, then we can say that Australian government is focusing more on the skilled migration, and also they are focusing that they should be having visa granted or the incentive for regional locations instead of focusing more on the populated location which already had number of migrants there, like working or otherwise, let's say, as a student. Right? So that should be one thing. Second thing I can get from this conversation is the government is trying to streamline the whole process so that they can ignore the fraud applications which are coming. Like as we have seen a good rise in the application from the pandemic time, so they are trying to streamline the whole process, so only the filtration can be happen for skilled migration or the genuine students, right? These are the key takeaways I am getting from this conversation. Some Dr. Samita or Mr. Tesh, if you would like to add anything in this key takeaways, like the message which we are going to take with us from this.
Yeah, as has been the theme of this discussion, Australian education, international education sector is obviously in a state of transition, and they have brought about many negative we could say for us policies that has kind of brought out decline in number of visa applications, and even general interest in the country as a whole, it has gone down. But now, so many tough measures have already been put on, and so strictness is
Yes.
already there. So it can't get more strict than this. That's what we feel
Yes.
now for now. So
Mm-hmm.
so now they're kind of cleaning up the mess that was brought about by large number of grants in the past years. So now it has
Yes, that's amazing.
the darkest part of the storm has passed. Now we'll be seeing brighter
Yeah.
days starting
Yeah.
2025. That's
We
what I
hope
feel.
soon. Yes, we hope soon. Yeah, let's move on to the Q&A session, which is most awaited today. We are getting lots of questions in the chat box as well. Let's try to answer those questions one by one. Let me just open this chat. I'm sure you guys must have access to the chat. Dr. Samita and Mr.
Yeah.
Acharya, are you able to see the chat?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I think we have got one question in the Q&A section, which is there in the chat. Does visa ratio differ with the university levels? I think any of you, if you can answer these questions, any of you guys.
Yeah, definitely visa ratio depends on the level or level universities as well. Because if you're going
Mhm,
with level one universities, the process, the documents which we submit is totally up to the mark, and level one
mhm,
universities definitely have an high impact. So
mhm,
we have been seen that, when we are applying for through a level one university, definitely we have success ratio in visa compared to level two and
mhm.
level three. So yeah, definitely yes. It completely depends on
Okay.
what level university you're applying. So generally, we as a counselors also suggest students, if they are very good financially and they can afford
Mhm,
a level one university, seeing the success ratio, we definitely suggest them to go with level one. But if suppose
mhm,
any student who's not able to monetary way, go ahead with level one, level two also, but based on complete documents, how you're going to put your profile, how you're going to put your case, completely depends on the universities as well as the case officer as well as the student's profile. Yeah. So
okay.
all goes together. Yeah. I have seen personally, like one of my student recent case,
Mhm,
everything was very good, everything, be it financial level one university, and the visa came very late. It came after
okay.
45 days after passing out the
Mhm,
date of the enrollment, and yet he
mhm,
couldn't join Australia, and parallelly we had worked on Canada for him, so he had to go to
mhm,
Canada. So completely depends upon the case officer as well as the profile. So there are
mhm,
many cases happening, so we cannot definitely say one particular thing, but yes, definitely level one has an impact in the ratio.
mhm. Okay, okay. That's really good information, Dr. Samita. We have this question as well. Like, I think some of the audience is asking, what is the finance changes for international student? Ritesh, I would like to ask you, like, what do you think is finance changes for Australia? If you can just give us a brief about it.
Mhm. So basically, as I touched upon earlier, the
Mhm,
living costs that we are supposed to show, that we are supposed to have. So it has
mhm,
increased from 21,000 to 24,000 to almost
mhm.
30,000 within a span of a few months. So that's one kind
Yeah,
of
correct.
financial change. Another financial change
Mhm,
would be the increase in visa fee itself from 700 to 1600. That's kind of an
mhm,
unprecedented move. So that's another thing. And another thing is like in the past, for example, universities used to look at your finance for 1 year. They used to ask your
mhm,
statements, your tax returns for 1 year, but now they are asking back to 3 years. So if you are thinking of trying to like bloat your financial and show it, then that application is at high risk. We don't really suggest our students to go that way because it's a long process, as
mhm.
Dr. Samita said. So you have to spend like 6 to 7 months. They are the students' time, the parents' time, even we consultants' time, and in the end, if we get a bad impact, so it's a tough time for all of us. So we ourselves
Mhm,
are trying to filter out the candidates. If you feel that they will qualify financially, they have got their resources, their family can afford it, then it's good to go. Otherwise, it would be a tough choice to make, and it will very high, maybe 2 or 3 lakhs rupees at stake just for one rejection. So that's always there.
I would like to add a point here, Ritesh. I'm sure you'll agree with it. Initially, we used to submit tax returns for 1 year, or now, like few months back, we used to, even submit 3 years at a time tax return, but that is also not
Mm.
accepted now. So you should have a
mhm,
three different years tax returns, and apart from that, suppose if a student is going with the education loan, And that too, collateral is important. You cannot go with any other financial
Mm-hmm.
institutions, and that too, nationalized banks are important. And if you
Yeah.
see, if we say that a parent is having 10 lakhs, for example, as a fixed deposit, and I would
Mm-hmm.
like it to be used, my son to be using or my daughter to be using it, they want even the source of income. From where did that 10 lakhs come? And if they say,
Oh.
we have sold a property and we have fixed this amount there, so we need to even show where you sold. Was the property on your name?
Mhm.
So these stringent actions have been
Oh.
taken, even by the universities, not only by the Australian. I mean, definitely that's an Australian policy, which universities are also,
Mm-hmm.
seeing. But during visa admission, like when we are lodging the application for visa, also all these documents are very, very important. If you put your case, if you put your profile as
Mm-hmm.
an agent, if you have an updated information, what has to be put and how, then definitely you can find a better outcome. So yes, these all small, small documents have to be checked by the agents and verified by agents as well, and then put up to the university. So this is a small suggestion or feedback over the years of experience which I, faced. I would like to put it to the other agents as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Understood, understood. I
definitely.
have
Because
one.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
just
think
want.
Ritesh
Yes,
is.
yeah.
Uh,
So what
yeah,
happened
Ritesh,
was
go ahead.
we had put an application for February intake for one of such a student, and they had kind of gotten a fixed deposit for since 15 years back. So the university is asking where did this money come from
Yes,
15 years back.
yes.
And thankfully, those
Mm-hmm.
were
Understood.
so the organized people who had all their papers intact and they could produce it. But for normal people, they don't really keep their bills or anything for 15 years. So that thing's kind of funny, but that's how it is playing these days.
Okay, that's great insights, Ritesh. I think we have one more question left in the Q&A session. So here, like someone has asked, George, I think has asked that who are the acceptable as sponsors to fund the student study? Would you like to answer this question, Dr. Samita?
Yeah, the sponsors can only be the blood relations, like the
Okay.
grandparents, mother, father, spouse can be, if a wife is going, spouse can be a sponsor, mother's brother can
Mm-hmm.
be a sponsor, and father's
Mm-hmm.
sister can be a sponsor, the immediate blood relations. But sometimes, they say my mother's brother's daughter, who's happen to be my cousin, so they cannot be the sponsor. Definitely only blood relations or immediate blood relation can be the sponsors for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to married, students who are having spouses, spouse can be the sponsor. Mother-in-law, father-in-law can also be the sponsor. Yes. But
Okay.
generally, see, we can keep three people as a sponsor. We have to, according to India, I mean, like 12 lakhs ITRs we need to show them. Now it is increased to 12 to
Mm-hmm.
14. Yeah, so we can add
Okay.
three as a sponsor. But when you add three as a sponsor, the case would be a little difficult for the visa officer to accept it. So generally, we suggest them to
Mm-hmm.
have two sponsors with the ITRs of 12 lakhs, 12 to 14 lakhs. And generally, as an counselor, I suggest them to go, even if they are good financially, we suggest them to go with education loan, because that's the easy way. You have to just submit the loan documents, because every financial document should have a source of income. Like if you, for example, show that in my statement I have 5 lakhs come from so and so source, then what is the source? What did you do?
Mm-hmm.
These days, so even for business, they're
Mm-hmm.
asking GST registration number and certificate,
Yes,
business
yes, that's
card.
correct.
There has been, if they are government employees, they're asking ID cards. They're asking salary statement. And agriculture, again, you have a lot of documents. Mostly we
That's
find
correct.
Punjab people with, and even the South Indian people, they go with agricultural documents. So they're asking like a lot, the land document and the J forms and the government certificate of everything. So yeah, these are the things we need to follow as an agent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, understood. Now we have taken much time, but I would like to ask last question. Then we can definitely conclude. I think we have this question from Shivani. She's asking, please advise us how to sell Australia. This is a good question. I think Ritesh, would you be able to answer this question? Please
Yeah,
go ahead for us.
that's an interesting question. Like, so first of all, we should put this question to the Australian government in place. if you ask me really. But that aside, so the main thing is we just want to say that for selling Australia, for example, the universities ranked in top 100 in Australia, that they are much easier to get in than the universities ranked in top 100 in the US, we could say, or even the UK, the Russell Group universities and all. So those are very difficult to get in. So acceptance rate for international students is quite high if you are looking for a good quality education. That could be one thing. Another thing we can say that if you can get in, so whenever you your parents could make one installment for 6 months and all, but when you get over there, you are allowed to work 48 hours in 2 weeks time, and their dollar, like minimum wage is like $24.10 per hour. So that kind of gives the assurance that once they are there, they could fund their own studies even by working part-time during their study, and full-time that's allowed during study breaks and vacations. And apart from that, even if you invest something, it's like investing in a piece of land. After 2 years time, you'll get a degree, and then you get to work for 2 or 3 years. Even if you don't get a PR, you can easily recover your investment there. And also there's a possibility of PR and calculating your points as well. So the main thing is, if you're like if you really want to go and settle in a first world country, PR options is there. As Dr. Samita said, US won't give green card and even citizenship easily. So for UK, the settlement is it's kind of a long way, and it's difficult to getting into the skill pathway and all. So there's a simple pathway you could easily settle there, but you should be careful about the subjects. You kind of should look at what skills are in shortage there. So the skill shortage list is always public information. You can always look there and say, okay, look, you are a physiotherapist. Physiotherapists are in demand. So there were 300 physiotherapists were granted permanent residencies within the last 6 months. So if we can give those kind of examples and show the grant rates. So grant rates had been quite low last year, 22-23, but it's improving these days. It has gone from around 35% to 65-70% for now for Nepal India market. So that's a good message. It's improving a lot. So you should take a gamble. You should have patience, because the documentation and everything, it will take 6 months of time, and you should always have a backup, as Dr. Pandey said. So that's how we try to counsel the students who come to us.
Great advice, Ritesh. I can see that. I'm tempted to get one more questions, like one more question from this Q&A session. Someone has asked, like I think Harnish has asked, single parent case, how to make ITR of
Yeah.
12 lakh.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
say that. So, as Dr. Pandey said, so the mainly two sponsors or even three is acceptable. So it's up to the universities. Some universities say that we only accept two sponsors. Some say we accept three sponsors, but two should be your parents, something like that. But when and in the past, what happened was we used to show income for uncles and maternal uncles and aunts. So those used to be accepted in the past, but now they are saying that, oh no, those are secondary sponsors. Those they cannot sponsor. But in case of single parents, those are still accepted by most of the universities. For example, if your parents are divorced, and if you are living with your mother, then you can definitely show your maternal income as well. So
Yeah.
on this kind of rare cases, when they're divorced or deceased, those kind of cases where they do accept secondary as well, but it's entirely up to the university.
I'm pretty much sure Harnish has find it useful, right? And before we conclude this session, do you have anything you want to add, Dr. Samita?
For Shivani's question, please advise us how to sell Australia. I would like to add that Shivani, we as a counselor, as a career counselor, when students come to us, definitely we give them the good points, but we even give them a plan B. If not, it doesn't work. And
Yes.
there are times like before, initially when the visa was rejected in Australia, we could have applied for after 6 months, or there might be chances that it might get even granted later, but now it's going to be very difficult. So before even we put up the profile or the case for Australia, we have to, as an agent, make sure that we are segregating and seeing all the documents. They are right in place and intact, and only then suggest Australia. That's my, a suggestion or a feedback, because I have seen students coming with a very disheartened way that, the case was not submitted
Mhm.
properly, the visa got rejected,
Yes.
and there's no chance they can now go to Australia near future for a few years at least. So, if the bachelor's visa got rejected, master's is also at a risk, like we can't guarantee. So generally, when for Australia, when we counsel, being an Australian company, our majors is in Australia. But generally, before even counseling student, we verify the documents. We make sure that the documents are intact and in place. Only then we suggest them Australia. So
Mhm. Yeah, that's good insights, Dr. Samita. Now we are going to conclude this session. If there are any more questions, you guys from audience, you can feel free to email us those questions. We will be getting back to you. We can even get response from the expert as well if it is required. We will be connecting with Dr. Samita or Ritesh as well in future if it is required, and we will be responding to your questions in email as well. Now, before we end this session, I would just like to give a bit introduction of our company as well. If I talk about who are we are like IT company, and we develop SaaS-based products, especially for this industry, as we have talked about streamlining the process or digitalizing the process. We have some products developed for this particular industry, which is going to help you a lot for streamlining or digitalizing your business and making it easier for you to maintain the work properly so that you can focus more on the policy changes or whatever guidance you require to give to your students. If I mention some of the products which we have, one of them is Condesk, which is CRM to maintain the records of your leads, your inquiries, and the communication which you are doing with your clients. So that is the CRM which you can manage properly in for the leads. Second thing, Compare is one portal for comparison of OBSC and OSHC policy. Let's say if you are buying health cover for your student or your students are buying health covers from their cells, then you will be getting to know what are the quotations available for different policy provider for Australia. Third, which is showing in the screen, it is consigned for digital signature. So if you are struggling with the signature part, let's say if you are sending documents to your client for digital signature and you are also worried about the security of those documents, then consign is going to be a good catch for you. And last but not the least, Search My Ensco is designed in the way that you will find for any occupation, you will find the possibility of the visa which you are going to get for that particular occupation. What are the opportunities for any particular occupation in Australia immigration, right? So yeah, definitely thank you so much for joining us today. You guys, it has really been a good session. And thank you so much once again, Dr. Samita and Mr. Ritesh as well. It really means a lot. Your insights were really helpful, and I'm sure our audience has find it helpful as well. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Thank
Have
you.
a
Thank you.
nice
Thank
day
you.
ahead, all of
Thank
you.
you,
Yes.
everyone. Thanks for
Yeah.
joining. Thanks for inviting,
Thanks for
guys.
joining.
Yes.
Thank you.